All right, here we go again. 1910.30 is training requirements for all the stuff we talked about. And it's pretty short, so this is not going to take too long. So let's get on with it. There we go. Walking working surface training requirements. You'd think people have to be trained on walking working surfaces. They do. The fall hazards. Before any employee is exposed to a fall hazard, the employer must provide training for each employee who uses personal fall protection systems or who is required to be trained as specified elsewhere in this subpart. Employers must ensure employees are trained in the requirements of this paragraph on or before May 17, 2017. Okay, so well, if you haven't trained your employees by now, you're in trouble. That kind of, okay, that's kind of what that says, huh? So somebody started work yesterday and you just trained them, you're out of compliance. Maybe I should have written this a little bit better, huh? So the employer must ensure that each employee is trained by a qualified person. So you go, that qualified person again that OSHA uses. And that's basically whoever the company says is, pretty much, although there should be something behind it. There should be a reason they're the qualified person. The employer must train each employee in at least the following topics: the nature of the fall hazards in the work area and how to recognize them, the procedures to be followed to minimize those hazards, the correct procedures for installing, inspecting, operating, maintaining, and disassembling the personal fall protection systems that the employee uses, and the correct use of personal fall protection systems and equipment specified in paragraph A1 of this section, including but not limited to proper hookup, anchoring, and tie-off techniques, and methods of equipment inspection and storage as specified by the manufacturer. There's that manufacturer again. So when you buy something, or hopefully whoever in your company buys it, it always, most stuff that's of any significance comes with some kind of manufacturer stuff. And I mean, you should do this at home too. I mean, when we do, you buy a toaster, you keep the manufacturer's instructions just in case, right? I'm assuming you already know how to use a toaster. Equipment hazards. The employer must train each employee on or before May 17, 2017, the proper care, inspection, storage, and use of equipment covered by this subpart before an employee uses the equipment. The employer must train each employee who uses the dock board to properly place and secure it to prevent unintentional movement. You can see what they're saying about the 17th thing before an employee uses the equipment. So now you just have to train them before they use the equipment. The employer must train each employee who uses the rope descent system in proper rigging and use of the equipment in accordance with 1910.27. The employer must train each employee who uses the designated area in the proper setup and use of the area. The employer must retrain an employee when the employer has reason to believe the employee does not have the understanding and skill required by paragraphs A and B of this section. Situations requiring training include, but are not limited to, the following: when changes in the workplace render previous training obsolete or inadequate. And you've kind of heard this before, I understand. When changes in the types of fall protection systems or equipment to be used render previous training obsolete or inadequate. Or when inadequacies in an affected employee's knowledge or use of fall protection systems or equipment indicate that the employee no longer has the requisite understanding or skill necessary to use equipment to perform the job safely. Training must be understandable. The employer must provide information and training to each employee in a manner that the employee understands it. So don't write your training manuals in Klingon, okay? That's all there is to training. Pretty simple. It's stuff that's covered in a heck of a lot of OSHA standards, and it's pretty common sense. You got to train people. How do you expect them to even know what they're doing, or how do you expect them to be safe if you haven't trained them? So be safe and train people.